Today is the 1st of December 2023, and we would like to continue looking at some more possible questions. Okay, this will be our 10th video. These are exam questions. Okay, I've just added a few bits, but these are exam questions. Okay, thank you to everyone who has been watching our videos. I appreciate it a lot, and thank you to everyone who have subscribed and who are sharing and liking, and those who are following us. Thank you very much. Please, if you haven't considered it already, can you consider subscribing, sharing, and liking our videos and giving us some nice comments? Okay, I want to know if the videos are helping. Okay, I know some people have said it to me by word of mouth, but I would like you to write it out, those who I don't know, so that I can reply you. Okay, and then it's good to know, because there's always room for improvement. And if the account is not yours, please ask permission from the account holder, or just ask someone to help you open an account and use it to get the videos when we upload them. In the comment section, I normally write, please follow my notes/scripts. Okay, this is math. It's not a reading lesson, and it's also not a spelling lesson, and it's good to form the habit. So if you want to watch it and it's in your leisure time, just take 30 to 40 minutes, sit down, especially if you are going to write an exam. Sit down, watch it. Okay, for instance, this is x equals 3. So if it comes out as x minus 3, no, follow the notes. If I go watch it and it's not what I intend to do, I will come and say it in the next video, or I'll write it in the comment section. Okay, thank you very much on that. Please beware of scammers. Okay, they are all over the place. Beware of them. Recap, because we are doing possible exam questions, the topics are different. Okay, so please go back and watch last video and see the topic, the questions we did, and most of the questions I add a bit just for explanation reasons. Okay, so just go back and watch the questions and look at how we solved them, especially if you're in year 10 or 11, or if you are doing a receipt, or if maybe you've registered yourself to go and do your Gcse and go back into education. Just watch the videos for recap. Our starter for today. Yesterday we saw a question like this, okay, from the exam paper, and I wanted to explain further, so I brought it in for the starter. You know, there was a question that said it looks similar, so I'm going to use the starter to explain. X minus 3 into bracket x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, here what it means is, if x minus 3 is 0 everything here becomes 0. And if x plus 4 is 0, everything here, okay, 0 times everything in the bracket will be 0. So it's either x minus 3 equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. So we need to find the values of x. So x minus 3 equals 0. If you put 3 in place of x, 3 minus 3 will be 0, so x will be 3. If you put minus 4 in place of x, minus 4 plus 4 equals 0, so x equals minus 4. Okay, so for this 2x minus 3 into bracket x plus 4 into bracket to be 0, x is either equal to 3 or x is either equals to minus 4. This is what it means, and that was what we did yesterday in one of the questions. Okay, so these questions can easily come. Another example, x plus 1 into bracket x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, so it's either x plus 1 equals 0 or x minus 8 equals 0. So when x is minus 1, minus 1 plus 1 will be equal to 0. So x will be minus 1. So that's if one value of x. When x is 8, 8 minus 8 equals 0. Okay, it can also be that x plus 1 equals 0. So when you move 1 to this side, it becomes minus 1 because it's plus there. So x minus 1 is 0. Okay. Third one, x plus 3 into bracket x minus 6 equals 0. So x plus 3 equals 0. So if you put this, take this 3 to the other side of the equal to sign, x will be equal to minus 3. That is what we have here. Okay. If you take minus 6 to the other side of the equal to sign, s will be equal to 6. Okay. And if you substitute, there will be 0. So it's either x equals minus 3 or x equals 6. So these are the values of x to make this it's a quadratic equation, because if you multiply it out, it is a quadratic equation. So if you plot it on the curve, on the graph, you are going to get a curve. Okay, because x times x will be x squared. Okay, but what it means is, for when x equals minus 3, this whole thing is 0. Okay, because this part will be 0, and when x equals 6, this part will be 0. So the whole equation becomes 0. X minus 5 equals 0 here, or x plus 2 equals 0. So again, by what we've been doing, x equals 5, okay, or x equals minus 2. Okay, so this is our starter for today, just to emphasize what we did yesterday. Now today's example has to do with histogram. I haven't done any video on histogram, so I've written that topic: histogram, bar chart, Venn diagram, some substitution. So as we are going through the questions, the topics I've not done as videos, I'm writing them down. So when we finish, maybe some of the questions I have, I'll go back and do those videos, and then we'll solve some more questions, okay? But I'll use the question to explain to you, because it's a higher paper and it's likely that some of you have done it. So I'm going to use the question just to explain. So this is a travel company. It records the number of minutes T. Some services were late in the month. The histogram summarizes the result. So in the exam paper, they gave us the histogram. These numbers, I did the calculation and I'll explain to you in a bit. But the x-axis in the histogram, they gave us number of minutes, which is T. And then on the y-axis, it was represented as frequency density. I will explain that. I wrote the title, they didn't give us a title, so a histogram of a travel company. And since for my reference I wrote the date, okay, so that if I am looking for the graph, I can easily connect this graph to the question we are looking at now. If you are doing it in a classroom, you just have to ask for stapler and staple it, or maybe use a glue stick and attach it to your work, okay? But this is the histogram, okay, and I'll use it to explain the question, and then we'll solve it, okay? So a histogram summarizes the result. So this is a travel company. We don't know whether they deals with train or bus or taxis or hikers, but they said in a month the number of minutes that some of the services were late in 1 month, okay? They summarize it in the histogram I've just shown you, okay? So before I start the question, I want to show you the difference between a bar chart, okay? Now, this is a bar chart or a bar graph, this one here. You know, with the histogram, there are no spaces in between, and it's a bit complex to read. This is a bar chart, okay? This is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, okay? I'll come and do a video, but this is how a bar chart look like. This graph is not to scale because it's not on the a graph paper, but I've tried to use Gcse. So normally on a bar chart you might get 1 to 2, that'll be the interval, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 8. Okay, when we're doing data, finding median mode, range, mean, okay, some of those information you can use it to do a bar chart, okay, and you can also use it to do a histogram. So I'll bring a data, we'll do some videos to explain what a bar chart is, and we'll learn how to draw it, okay? But just for today, this is how a bar chart will look. It has spaces in between, okay? A histogram hasn't got that, Okay, as this is a question, it hasn't got that, it hasn't got space, it's the bars are joined together. Now, in a bar chart, on the x-axis, the bars have equal width. Okay, that is the main difference. In a histogram, look at the width. That is 5, that is 5, that is 5, that is 10, that is 5, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 30. Okay, so you realize that in a histogram, the bars, the width can be different, but in a bar chart, they have the same width on the x-axis. Okay, at today's question, this is what I want you to know, and the bar charts are not joined together. Okay, a histogram, the bar charts are not joined together. Okay, now a bar chart or a bar graph is a categorical data. It's like they're in categories. Okay, so you have 10 to 15, 20 to 25, no, 10 to 15, 20 to 20, because it's equal. Okay, 30 to 35, so it's equal of fives. Okay, or maybe 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. Okay, so you have space in between. Okay, but histograms, they are clustered together as this. Okay, so that's why it's a categorical data for the bar chart. Now, with a histogram, it is a quantitative data. Okay, so here they are telling you how many times a service was late. So it is the quantity, how many times this occurrence happened. Okay, and on the histogram, it's a bit more complex to read, because we can draw a bar chart of different companies, maybe sale prices during this season, and then we can see that maybe we can draw two different bar charts for two companies. So we can see that if you look at the bar chart, maybe one sold more, so it will have a taller graph, and then there'll be a space. Okay, but in a histogram, we can't get that. Okay, we have to use other methods to read that. So that's why it's more complex to read. Now, if you look at the histogram they gave us frequency density, and they gave us the width. So to find the frequency of occurrence, we use this formula. If you multiply the y-axis by the x-axis, you find the frequency of occurrence. Okay, so you hold that there for debate, and with time I'll explain that to you. Okay, now, so the question says, given the histogram, how many services were more than 50 minutes late? Okay, so I've just explained to you what a bar chart is, and the difference between the bar chart and a histogram. So I'm going to use that explanation for now to help you understand the question that we've been given, okay? From the histogram given, how many services were more than 15 minutes late? Okay, now on the y-axis, we have the frequency density. And then on the x-axis, we have the width on the x-axis, which is in minutes, okay? Now we need to find the frequency, that is how much it occurred, okay? And then they said the services were more than, so we are going to look for the 15 minutes mark on the histogram, and then we'll use that to solve the question, okay? So now, when I found the frequency, look at I had to redraw this just to show you. So if you look at the graph, it's up to, on the y-axis, it's up to 60 minutes here, okay? Now the first bar is up to 5 minutes, okay? So 5 minutes, and then the frequency density is 6. So 6 times 5 will give me 30. I'm using this formula here. Frequency density times the width of the, which is time of the histogram of the way the bars they've given us on the histogram will be our frequency, okay? So here, 30 services were late, okay? If you look at the second bar, 5 minus 10 is 5 minutes. So the width will be 5 again. But if you look at the frequency density here, it's about, when I look at it, it's about 4.4 from the graph. And that is what I've done here to scale. Okay, that's 4.5, so that's 4.4. That's 5. So that's 5. So I have 5 times 4.4, which would be 22 here. Okay, but 3. Again, I have 5 minutes interval, and then when you look at the y-axis, it's 3. Exactly on 3. So 5 times 3 will give you 15. Bar 4. 4 times 10 equals 40. So look at bar 4. The bar is bigger, between 15 and 25. So on the x-axis we have 10. Okay, and this is up to 4. So 10 times 4 is 40. By 5, okay, if you look at the graph here, it will be 2.8, and then the interval here is 5. So 2.8 times 5 is 14. And then the last bar, if you look at it, is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. The frequency density is 1. So 1 times 30 is what? 30. So that is what, so I use this formula, the frequency density, which is on the y-axis, and then the width, okay, which is on the x-axis. If I use the bars, it will give me my frequency. So I wasn't given these figures. I calculated them myself. If you good at this, you don't need to go through all this, okay? And it's a calculation paper, so you can do it with your calculator and just write it on the bar graph, okay? But because I've not done this as a topic, I thought I will explain it further, okay? Now, so after doing that and writing it on the graph, I now have enough information, because I know that here 30 services were late, 22, this is the frequency, 22 services were late in this bar, okay? 15 services were late, 40 services were late, 14 services were late, and 13 services were late. And then if I correspond it with time, 30 services were late up to 5 minutes. 22 services were late up to 10 minutes. 15 services were late up to 15 minutes. That's what it means, okay? So now, again, let's look at the question. From the histogram, services that were more than 15 minutes late, okay? So if you come back on the graph again, look, this is 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So this is my cutoff point. After this, all these services were 50 minutes late. So this bar here, 40, that is the frequency. That bar here, 14, and that bar here, 30. So I'm going to add 40 plus 14 plus 15, because I want more than 15 minutes late. Okay, so if I add 40, 14, and 30 from these figures I found, okay, I'm going to get 84 services. So straight away, using that formula, okay, I have the services that were more than 15 minutes late is 84. Now, if I look at the second part, which is the modal class, okay? Now, if you look at the graph without calculating, you might think it's this bar. The modal class is the frequency of lateness, okay? So here, you have to look at the bar here. Okay, this is the one that occurs the most between the time 15 minutes and 25 minutes. So the modal class or the modal time of the services, so they gave you series between 0 to 5, and then between 15 minutes and 25. So you can see here that between 15 and 25 minutes, they had 40 services late. Okay, so this will be my modal bar or my modal time. So I've finished solving this question. Now, they gave you this 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the question, you had to take or circle or underline which one. Okay, so this is where I underlined, okay, because they have more late services. Now, there is a last example I want us to look at, which is part of the question. Okay, which of these, when converted to decimals, are recurring decimals? Okay, so recurring decimals can be 0.444444 or 0.45454545 or 0.367367 Now, again, this is a calculator paper. You've been given all these 5 numbers in the paper. So all you have to do is to use your calculator. 1/3, if you put it in your calculator, 1 divided by 3, you get 0.33333333. It reoccurs. So that is a reoccurring one. So they will either ask you to circle it or underline it. Whatever they ask you to do, just do that. Now pi, when you put it in, you click it on your calculator, it's not a recurring figure. It's long, 3.141592653589793. So that's not reoccurring. Root of 3, if you put it on the calculator, you have 1.7320 5080 586 8877. This is also not reoccurring. 3/16, you get 0.1875. This is also not reoccurring. Now, the last one we're given is 5/8. You have 0.714285, and then it begins again, 714285, and then 714285. So you can continue. So this is also reoccurring. Okay, so now if you look at a question, this is also an exam paper question. It's a calculator paper. Okay, so now this is reoccurring. 1/3 is reoccurring. Pi is not. Root of 3 is not. 3/16 is not. The 5/7 is. Okay, because after 714,285, it starts again, 714,285, then 714,285. You can do that for the next 3 days. Okay, so you have to terminate it somewhere, or just put it to 1 or 2 decimal places. Okay, so I will find time and do a video on bar chart separately, do a video on histogram separately. Okay, as we go through the questions, the topics I haven't done, I'm writing them down, or the one that I need to emphasize a bit more, I'm writing them down, so that after we've done some more questions, or we've finished the questions, a few of them, I'll do videos on them, and then we'll look at some more questions. Okay, we'll just do a lot of questions, as much as we can do, so that you can see how they can use the same topic to throw questions at you, which you can do. It's just a matter of a little bit of thinking, and then you can really score all the marks. Thank you so much for watching our video today, and I'll see you in the next.